how does he actually work in detachments? So regardless of his points that we know right now, I can tell you that these are the detachments that just came off the top of my head that I might be using him with, and some fun reasons why. Some more competitive than others, la da da. But hey, I enjoyed doing it. So just to start off with, the obvious one is Cult of Speed, best overall synergy, right? It's it's he has already access to the wall, so he can always be in his best ability, which is auto advance 6, move through terrain and units. So obviously he gets that. The reactive move that built in there, the access to all the other 4-up invuln units or armor saves that exist, and saturation of T6, speed, jailing people, battle line means he can go up to 36 bikers, stuff like that. So Cult of Speed is one of those possible no-brainers. He does already have um sustain built on his weapon, but this detachment's funny. You Cult of Speed, you can maybe give him sustain 2, or you can give him lethal 5, crit 5 pluses. So there are cool things you could do with him that make him even more interesting in a fun way on his own. So excellent synergy with Cult of Speed. I think most people have talked about this online. So I'm gonna just a little bit elaborate on other stuff, even though I'm super into Cult of Speed for it. This is one of the Cult of Speed is that one detachment that even if he's on the more pricey side, he's still gonna find a good home in Cult of Speed. Another fun one was the new Freebootaz detachment. As someone who's been playing them on right now on my own, right away I thought, well, I can get him to stay in his favorite Pulsa ability where he auto advance 6 is jump through a terrain. One is I could just simply say, oh, he's right here on my home. I can just jump him and go attack your natural expansion. 2, I can again just go run towards my natural expansion and then give him the wall on the next turn, anyways, even just to make him more punchy. Or if I'm sitting somewhere staged up, knowing he can already advance and charge, there's a chance that I can run towards the enemy's objective they're trying to hold and use that as my looted objective without trying to gain line of fight, without trying to declare a wall on the rest of the army. And I can allow him to attack the looted objective, get the reroll wounds objective, and the sustains in combat. So he actually was more interesting to me in the freebooted detachment than people actually were saying. And then chat said rapid ingress him into objectives for next turns. Yeah, fun things like that. Smart gets. This is where we're trying to say, like, Cult of Speed is the obvious play for obvious reasons, but Freebooter can still have a little bit of fun. Another thing that could be fun is if you gave him blast. Now, you have to be pretty, safe with your CP. So of course, this is tongue in cheek to a degree. But with his precision keyword on his weapon, if you shoot at the right targets, you'll be giving drags instead of hoping that he gets sus 1 and then hoping you just roll a 6, which is still cool. In this case, if you put blast on him, as long as you're targeting an infantry unit, he can end up getting +1 shot to his precision weapon, and he can get +1 or +2 shots to his Pulsa Gatling, which can make it kind of fun if you're really trying to threaten an enemy character in a silly way. Then you also, like I said, the looted objective. So either you're launching off it, and because you can make it the wall, then you get to pick your ability. That's cool. Or you, because now it changed and you can pick an enemy on your turn, you can pick the objective they're trying to hold and then run over there and get them. Boom. Then we go to more Dakka. So more Dakka, you declare the wall, you get access to sustain 1 in range, but you already have sustain 1 in range on his data sheet ability. So that's like if you wanted his precision. Then you have ignore cover access there. So, if you really wanted to actually ignore cover and get some utility out of his shooting, if you want to do the mech combo where you give him +1 to the mech with the mech, then you use ignore cover. Then the -2 AP hitting on 3s might be very, very interesting with sustain. And then, like I said, more Doc actually has access to reroll wounds, so it's not dependent on your looted objective. So the reroll wounds is just easy to get off and more Dakka, which means he can end up running up and doing it there as well. Now, the sleeper detachment that I think was kind of fun to look into was Tactical Brigade. What I mean look into is, I just thought about it at work a little bit. So with Tactical Brigade is now, because he doesn't have the War Boss ability, it means he cannot give tactics, which is a big downfall. But he can be given tactics. So if you are one of those funny gets that wants to use a baby Mick with Big Gob and poke him maybe or something, there's a chance that you can use Gaz can yell orders at him. Snickrock can yell orders at him if they're on the same list. So there's units that can maybe yell orders at him, and then he can get +1 to hit. He can get stealth and cover. We don't know how smoke's going to work, and stealth, etc., is all going to work because of the terrain rules for the objectives when you're standing on the terrain. But it could it now at the time is now you give him those kind of defensive buffs because he is really lacking access to any kind of defensive buffs. So giving him tactics would be a funny thing to do as well on that gid if somehow you can get him to him down range. Fun thing is making battle line on the bikers and storm boys both in tactical brigade for some late game playings going on there, and then the strats as a whole. So easy to get if he's going to go beat stick on his own. You utilize your big mech with your flash kits to kind of hold some firing lanes, and your tank busters. You need someone to go out and get in fights. You're not ready to declare a wall yet. Gaz is staged up. Okay, then he can run up, utilize sustain on his own, get in some fun fights. And then we have Warhorde. Warhorde kind of just obvious because it makes everything better, and it really takes advantage of lone op, takes advantage of he can actually pressure enemies, and they know something with critical 5+, maybe fight on deaths is going to run right at them. If they're an all melee army, they don't want a free fight on deaths off this get. So the damage factor here is because one, he's already hitting on 2+, but because he doesn't get rerolls of sustain reroll ones or any kind of wound rerolls in most of the detachments that are viable, right? The competitive quote unquote detachments don't really buff his damage output. Warhorde does, which means he's actually able to go out there, get in real fights, hunt down real enemy targets, and really get more respect out of your opponents in the way of, oh, he might actually crump me real good. And there's a lot of other really scary targets on the field. He also gives you a little bit of shooting, right? And that's kind of cool when you consider both together and the lone op buffs. Then we go to Green Tide. So again, Green Tide kind of sometimes can enjoy lone op, but in reality, he brings other stuff that it kind of lacks. Is one, he can actually acts as bait or speed because he's lone op. The enemy might actually get closer to line and commit to your tide and get range of your tide. Two, he might be able to actually go out and reach targets that the rest of your tide possibly couldn't, or get into fights with stuff before your tide declares the wall. Because the tide is so typically slow, quote unquote, finding a way to incorporate him into your list is good as well. And then, like I said, his damage is because they don't have a lot of damage 3. It's just, not good AP, stuff like that. So, that could be a factor. Like I said, though, he doesn't get any real buffs from this detachment. So that comes down to points. All of this comes down to we don't know his points, but I am open at least with his detachments. Another one is the new arc detachments. Are people just going to spam on DTS 36 bytes and jail people? Maybe, sure. We can talk about that more when it comes up. Setting up a game of Warhammer 40K can be a hassle, but it doesn't have to be. I want to highlight the best battle mat I've ever used. A 40K grid measuring mat with present battle lines for every official deployment zone, including the upcoming additions. Whether you're setting up for Crucible of Battle, Search and Destroy, it can only take a couple of minutes to get everything dialed in and ready to go. For us orc players, the grid is a total game changer. Each square is an exact 1 inch, so it's super easy to maintain unit coherency with big mobs, maintain aura ranges, or pile-ins. It also helps remove all those finicky measuring movements like checking charges or small within 6 inches movements because you can simply count the squares and keep the game flowing. On top of that, it makes the game easier with table quarters and positioning for secondaries. I've been using it for months and it genuinely makes the game better, smoother for both players. If you want to upgrade your setup and support the channel, check out the affiliate link in the description. Upgrade your game and support the Great War with lighter creative 40K grid mats. If you enjoyed the clip, check out the full video here. If you'd like to see more tactics, click here.
Let's get stuck in, lads!